Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson here with you, along with Michael Remis. We've got a big show coming up today. We will head to Buffalo a little later on, get the latest on the Jack Eichel situation with our pal Joe Yerdon in the home of the Buffalo Wing. And lots of Jets talk coming up, coming off another L last night at home with Scott Billeck of the Winnipeg Sun. As always, Winnipeg Sports Talk is brought to you by Not Autocorp, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Little Brown Jug, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend, Coolbet, and Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. So Billeck's going to join us in 15 or 20 or so. But before that, we welcome in Michael Remis, the CTO from the Command Center. Remo, how are you today? How are you feeling, first of all? You now officially vaxxed and waxed.
Yeah.
To quote Justine from the chat from a couple weeks ago. How are you feeling? How are you
They've
doing?
been lowering the ages, and I was eligible, zipped in. I must have got a cancellation, went to the super site. That's what they call it. And I'm feeling a bit of a vax hangover. So I'm battling through. I kind of just laid down on the couch and watched the Jets game, but pretty awesome to see what's going on there, and everyone, the numbers getting lower now for age eligibility. So,
what did it go to, 24 today?
Yeah, 24 today. So pretty much
That's
almost
awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I was getting the shot, and I was just having visions of going to Jets games and concerts and playing hockey again. So it was like the last day of school. When you get excited to finish your exam and it's done and like summer's starting. I had that kind of a feeling yesterday.
Were you emotional when you left the super site? Were you crying at all? Or
no, only like in line. After I was just like happy to be able to go home. Only like when you see like everyone getting shots and like you can see the end of this thing. And then
it wasn't the fear of actually getting a needle.
Man, they put it in me. I was like, that was it. That was what it was. Like, are you sure it went in?
Yeah. Did it work?
I was like, I almost wasn't sure if I actually got it, but I can tell you that my arm is a bit sore today.
I do have to ask you one other vax-related question. I can't help but notice I haven't seen a vaccine selfie from you on either Instagram or Twitter. Did you post one and I just missed it?
No, I did. They did have a selfie station there after you get it when you walk out at RBC, and it's like a backdrop you can take a selfie in front of with your sticker. I took a selfie. I didn't post it anywhere. I do have it in my personal collection.
Are we sure that the vaccine works if you don't tweet or Instagram a picture of yourself after getting it?
I'm not sure, man.
I just assumed with the amount of tweets and pictures that we've seen that is, sort of thing. This is what you do. Yeah. You have to come in, you make an appointment, you come in, you get your shot, then you post a picture of that shot on social media, and then you come back later on in the summer for a second shot. That's all just part of the new circle of life, I guess, with the vaccine ring.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to, if you want to activate the vaccine, you do need to take a selfie and post it online. Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. I should do that.
Please do that. I want this vaccine to work for you. You're a very important part of Winnipeg Sports Talk.
One thing I'm surprised about is I didn't get like a certificate or anything that says that I had it. I think it's just like an NFT on your profile that says that you had the vaccine. You just have an NFT in your digital wallet.
The Vax Top Shot. It's in your account. Is Dabber Labs handling this for the province of Manitoba and Canada right now as well?
Yeah, number 120,000 of just over 1 million or so.
Oh yeah, Tristan Rivers Music. The cell phone for the selfie activates the 5G.
Yeah.
So
now that we're both got the vaccine, so no more connection issues with the guests. It's gonna be all solved now.
There'll never be another muted mic on this program or anything. Yeah, the tech's all taken care of now that Bill Gates is on our side.
No more muted mics.
Hey, shout out to everybody that's joining us in chat right now. Our boy Wayne Jones is there. Hi from the Norwegian chapter. Great to see you, Wayne. Tristan, of course, the Earl of Eli, the OG, Gregory Liverpool, Owen, Jeff, Manny, What up, Russ Lowen, Manny Franz with us. And, Gerard Gallant has entered the chat, Remis.
Yeah, he's getting ready for the World Championships. He's ready for the World. So I guess for all the teams that don't make the playoffs, well, we will have that this year. We didn't have it last year. So I do get excited for that little second chance. I think they're going with a younger squad. So I know a lot of his name making the rounds with all these coaching vacancies, like in Columbus, Seattle, of course, and what's the other one? Arizona. Maybe he could be a candidate, but for now, he's got a busy job with Team Canada.
Oh, Chris Koff's here. Malparise.
Malparise
bought a Microsoft Surface after his shot. All right. Anyways, glad you got it, Reem. If you're able to, get it on the ASAP, and hopefully we can move past what we're going through right now. And when I say move past what we're going through right now, I'm referring to the pandemic, not the Jets losing 9 of 10 games, because they are unrelated. But I know, Remo, the people with us here today on Winnipeg Sports Talk feeling it right now, because if we were expecting the switch to be turned last night, that certainly didn't happen off the opening face-off. A dreadful start to the game. I mean, that was a team that didn't really seem ready to play. A few mistakes, you get down a couple goals. I will give Matthew Perreault a lot of credit. I thought Perreault was really going last night, and the play that he made to get the Jets on the board, setting up Kyle Connor right in front of the net, was exactly what this team needs. And you know what? From there on in, I didn't hate the way the Jets played. I mean, they generated, 40 shots? They had a bunch of good chances. Thatcher Demsko was brilliant. But again, when you're looking for confidence and you're looking for results right now, another loss on home ice with only a couple games to go, not really, I think, what the coach of the team's looking for. And it's not inspiring more confidence heading into the final 2 games before next week goes. All that being said, none of this is really going to matter come playoff time, but you want your team to be looking playoff ready, and unfortunately, I don't think anyone can really say that about the Jets at this moment.
Yeah, the captain, Blake Wheeler, said it best yesterday when asked about the team's play. He called it blah. Reminded me of what quote from a Friends episode.
Accurate, very accurate quote by the captain, I will say.
I know. I love the honesty from the captain. He said it wasn't the best, wasn't the worst, but if you're heading in to a 1-9 stretch here towards the end of the playoffs, less than ideal. I mean, that's not a playoff team doesn't go 1-9. You wouldn't think, but I guess they were doing so well earlier. They put themselves in a great position that they can go 1-9, still probably finish third here, which is didn't clinch it yesterday because Montreal got a point, but very crazy. But I mean, I didn't think they played terrible. Thatcher Demko made some awesome saves, robbing Mark Scheifele, robbing Kyle Connor on the breakaway at the end. A couple misfires there. A bit of a misstep by Ville Heinola there with the draw pass at the blue line. You got to take care of the puck there. You can't be pulling draw passes at the blue line. That's not it's not going to get it done. So
that was a real tough way to get things going. And obviously the goal was huge. The mistake was significant. Vancouver made the Jets pay. Nils Höglander, he had a hell of a game last night.
He's been great, man. Every game against the Jets, I'm like, who is this? First couple of games, like, who is this guy? Höglander, and he scored a couple against the Jets. That's probably why, but he's a good player for them. I like him.
Manny France says, much better game last night. Lots of high danger chances, unlike before where everything was perimeter shots, cut down odd man chances against again. I mean, listen, it wasn't a complete disaster or anything like that. I will say that, and and Coach Maurice said again today, like, if everyone is expecting us to tune in tonight and watch a Jets team that will be in full playoff mode, it really doesn't sound like that. It sounds like you're going to really spread out the ice time right now. We are going to see the Jet debut, Reem, of Dominic Toninato. He's in the lineup tonight for Jansen Harkins, and Neil Pionk's returning, and that means Ville Heinola is out. And
you can't turn the puck over at the blue line.
No,
you can't turn it over.
To say Ville's the only guy that's been turning the puck over on the blue line would be erroneous.
I mean, obviously he knows that he turned it over, and you can't do that. You don't think you need to bench him or sit him. But there was some speculation in our Twitter saying, okay, is this service time manipulation here? He's played 5 games this year. He needs to play 7 games for the first year of his ELC to kick in. Well, that 7 games can include, regular season or playoffs. Do they decide to, sit, they're saying, hey, we're 1-9, we're playing not great, like, let's just sit him for the playoffs because, it's not going anywhere anyways. And then you can keep him for that extra year of control. I do wonder what the plan is there. I think if he's, worthy of an NHL spot, keep him in the lineup. Don't hold him back. I think you see a lot of teams, you see this in baseball too, hockey, just the service time manipulation. I don't know if that's the best way to keep, healthy relationships with your players. I don't know where you stand on what they're going to do.
Yeah, they've put themselves in a position where they certainly can, not play him and maintain the year. And, for a team like Winnipeg where, free agency is always a big issue, that asset management is important. So, I'm not going to dismiss that at all. And, if the team's down 3-0 and, do we just play him to get some experience, but it's going to cost the contract? Well, the answer from me is probably no. My issue right now is, and, last night's game notwithstanding, I still probably think that this team could use Ville Heinola and what he brings to the table playing against teams like the Leafs or Oilers. But, I think we know, and it was pretty clear from Coach Maurice and what he had to say after the game last night that, he wasn't hanging it on Ville or anything like that. But I think Paul Maurice still thinks that he's got some more maturation to take place before he can go out and, eat up big responsibility for the Winnipeg Jets. Now, everyone will have their own opinion on that. Paul Maurice is the one that counts. And, we're seeing Neil Pionk get back in the lineup tonight. It sounds like Tucker Poolman will stay out, but it's Ville Heinola that was doing the bag skate after the morning skate today. So he'll be out of the lineup. How much of it has to do with asset management? It's impossible for us to answer until we hear from the general manager on that. But, for some, it'll be disappointing Ville Heinola is not in the lineup tonight. But I'll tell you what, if we look down the road and the Jets have Ville Heinola for an extra year because he didn't play the games down the road, it might look like a good decision. Bottom line is, it's much more to talk about than just Ville Heinola right now, especially a huge milestone tonight, Michael Remis. 1,000 games for Paul Stastny. And it was a pretty fun media session with Stastny earlier today, talking about, getting there, many of the memories over 1,000 games, and how he lost his teeth, in fact, not playing hockey, but getting an aluminum bat right in the grill in 7th grade.
Yeah, a couple things. Heinola look towards the future, but, you can look towards the future so much. At some point, you got to try and win now. And, this team was going for first early, a couple weeks ago. Now they're barely hung on to third place. So we'll see how that goes. And, yeah, we did have a couple lineup changes as well. But, yes, Paul Stastny, it's all, there's one positive we can take from this team's 1-9 stretch. Tonight we were celebrating Paul Stastny's career, 1,000 games. The Jets putting out a commemorative logo on their Twitter account, featuring, the numbers of all the teams that he's played for, spelling out 1,000. Well done. We tweeted out from our account. Jets.
Yeah, I thought that looked great.
Yeah, Jets. At first I was like, who drew this? All the numbers are looking different. What's going on here? And then I clicked on it. I was like, oh, I get it. Jets, Golden Knights, Blues, Avs. Oh, that's cool. And they all got, the Jets and the Avs kind of have their own number fonts, and Blues and Golden Knights are, just same thing, different colors. So I like that. But you said he got, we're interesting. We're learning a lot about Stastny. The teeth hit by the baseball bat. I know the Jets tweeted out Stastny's playlist. I think it had a lot of The Killers and Imagine Dragons. But also, he loves Taco Bell. And
Yes,
he had Taco Bell on his wedding night.
I thought that was such a power move.
He says he wants to have Taco Bell after the game. I'm sure it's open late. He could go to the Taco Bell. There's one down Portage. I would think that would be the one.
You know what? It's closing at 10 right now.
Is it? From experience that Taco Bell closes at 10? It's not open late?
I could pretty much tell you the closing time of every fast food restaurant within about a 5-kilometer radius of the Gordon area. And you know what? It's been real tough through the pandemic. The Burger King is now, it's closing early. I don't have a DQ close enough, and most of the DQs aren't open late. Essentially, the minute you get past 10 or 11, you're basically talking McDonald's. The Wendy's actually the Polo Park Wendy's is open till 1 on Friday and Saturday for delivery. Or sorry, for drive-through. But it's open, closing at 7. So anyways, yes, Taco
Winnipeg,
Bell and the KFC.
Winnipeg late night eats is not as elite as some other cities. Your options get very limited after.
Well, ever since the pandemic came and shut the Sal's at Pembina and Stafford down from 24 hours, I mean, there's been a huge hole in the late night food scene. For those of us that often eat more late night than at normal times, like normal people, it's really impacted life, Reem.
I just know, like, when you want something late, your options are like pizza or McDonald's. It seems like that's your options in Winnipeg. So Paul Stastny, maybe they can order Taco Bell before the game ends and have it waiting for him in the locker room, right?
But Split, Huss, besides Diet Pepsi, do you buy food? That's a valid question. And I mean, what's
in your fridge right now, Huss? Let's open it up. We're gonna need content in the summer if the Jets.
You want to know what's in?
The Jets get bounced. What's in Hustler's fridge?
A case of Little Brown Jug, and half of a pizza flight order last night from Boston Pizza.
Yeah, that's a company man right there.
Well, you know what? I did it for the game. I figuring, you know what? This would be perfect. I said yesterday on the program, I'm even more so. I kind of started this. I'm going to do my best to support the restaurant industry through takeout and delivery. And I've really dove into that head first through the pandemic.
Wow.
Let's just say this.
Good for you, man.
So I figured we're going to do it every day this week, not unlike most of the other weeks. But we started off with BP last night, had some wings, had pizza flights, had the playoff pizza flight. But I did get the Royal Hawaiian, which was absolutely amazing. Of course, the Boston pizzas right now are out and ready for delivery and for takeout. Unfortunately, no surprise here, no eat-in right now, but I want to support all our local restaurants. But yeah, get those pizza flights. I still think that might be the best deal on the menu as well. $18.99 for those 3 mini pizzas, 3 different kinds, 3 dips. It was phenomenal. So get that. And speaking of Little Brown Jug, we mentioned yesterday, if you're going to the bottle shops at any of the Canada Inns, grab yourself a pack of the 1919, scan the QR code, and you can win one of those sweet 1919 beer fridges. Remo was all about those. And when you're going in there, if you want a couple of newer beers from Little Brown Jug, check these out. This is the new summer lager. Had it on the weekend. It is phenomenal. As well as had a couple of our listeners tweet back at us that they'd heard us talking about and picked it up. And then this is the Hefeweizen. Another beautiful can and another very delicious summer beer. So you can pick those up, LCs, bottle shops, liquor stores, beer shops, wherever you buy your beer, pick up Little Brown Jug. And we'll have some more information on what they've got going on soon. But I did mention before that they've got home delivery. So you can find out more at the website or give them a buzz. Find out more about that program. And, if you're in a position right now where you're pretty much at home like everybody else is, that knock on the door from Little Brown Jug just might, in fact, make your day and your weekend. Find out more, littlebrownjug.ca. Reem, as far as tonight goes in the NHL, we'll hit cool bet lines a little later on, but really not too much going on tonight. I mean, you got the Jets and Canucks playing, and we've got a complete nothing game between Boston and Washington. And from the sounds of Bruce Cassidy's plans for the game tonight, it's essentially going to be they're going to play as few people as they can, as little minutes as they can. Basically, every regular in the lineup was thought to be considered to have a seat for tonight's game.
Yeah, I don't know what I got to check what the line has moved. I didn't get on it or anything, but yeah, Boston basically resting everyone, going with what the Providence Bruins lineup. I mean, their first line is going to be, according to Daily Faceoff, Jake DeBrusk, Jack Studnicka, and Zach Sensation. Defense, first line defense, Jacob Zboril and Connor Clifton. They're just saying, screw it, we're resting everyone. I mean, they've earned
nice to see that Senyshyn and Zboril both getting into the lineup. Those guys were, of course, 2 of the famous 3 first-round picks in a row, right before Barzal went to the Islanders and Kyle Connor came to the Winnipeg Jets.
And I think Shabbat wasn't Shabbat in there too? crazy. Those 3 picks will be always remembered. But yeah, Washington now. What 1.5? That's the odds. That seems really reasonable for an NHL team versus an AHL team, right?
Well, the thing is, what's Washington going to do? And we haven't entirely heard, but yeah, that was, well, okay, that's moved a lot. When I did the lock shop earlier this morning, it was minus 167. It's now minus 204. So it seems like that number is dropping quite quickly.
Ovechkin, he's been banged up too. We'll wait and see. I know Scott's here ready to go. We did have a couple things last night. Pekka Rinne, what a send off for him, getting a shutout in their game in Vegas, beating Colorado, so they get first in that division, Vegas, and they were dressing like 10 forwards and 5D because of cap issues. So I thought for sure. I think Colorado won. I take that back.
Yeah. Colorado did win. Colorado did win.
Colorado won. Yeah, Vegas, but it was close. Vegas only dressed 10 and 5. So Colorado won that game too. And my bad. I'm just sour because I took McKinnon over McDavid in DraftKings and it didn't work out. So they're still trying to figure out the West Division title with Colorado winning. My bad. That was almost screwed that one up, us.
Yeah, well, hey, you know what? Come on, straighten her out, Reem. Get ready for tonight. It's only 2 games. Hard to mess up tonight.
I'm a bit loopy from the shot. I'm a bit loopy. I'm gonna blame it on that.
That's right. We'll bring Remo back in a little bit. Joe Yerdon in Buffalo coming up a little bit later on. As always, shout out to our friends at Knott Auto Corp. Why not get into the vehicle of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Knott team? An incredible selection of vehicles, some luxury vehicles, great amount of Teslas, electric cars if you want to go that. Heck, Trevor Knott will even take your payment in Bitcoin if you want to go that way. If you're sitting on a bunch of Bitcoin and want to turn it into a vehicle, you can find out more as well during the pandemic. An incredible website. It's all there at knott.ca. And they'll help you consign your vehicle if you're looking to move from one to another. A great service that's been very successful for so many of their customers. Knott Auto Corp, Waverly and McGillivray, online at knott.ca. And a shout out to the Nick and Nikki DQ group. And actually, I'll make it at the same time a happy anniversary, belated to my folks who went out to the lake, grabbed some pizza, and on the way back in, got a little celebration cake from Nick and Nikki at DQ Northgate. What a great way to celebrate. I know there was lots of mom's cakes out there. Whatever the occasion, give Nick and Nikki a call. You can also order online through their Instagram at DQ Manitoba for all 4 Nick and Nikki locations: DQ Northgate, DQ Niverville, Polo Park, and Dairy Queen St. Anne's. And we thank Nick and Nikki for their support of the show. All right, let's get to some Jets talk with the one and only Scott Billeck of the Winnipeg Sun. Scotty, how are you, my friend? Great to have you back on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
I'm good, man. How are you guys? Remis, you get your shot today?
Yesterday. He got it
yesterday,
right
okay.
after the show. It was supposed to be a little later, and then he managed to realize there were some open spots and went right in. Got right after it. That's the plan, right, Scott? Listen, before we talk Jets, you're also the go-to guy for vaccines. Down to 24 today.
24 today, yeah. And
that's been a huge change in the past couple of weeks.
21 years, drop since Friday. So yeah, massive. And I'll say one thing on this. This past weekend sucked, and the last weekend sucked too. And I think a lot of people will realize that, especially with a third kind of lockdown, I suppose you would call it, during this. To me, the biggest thing for this was it was always going to be, excuse me, if you can sell the hope of the vaccination alongside of these restrictions, it will help soften the. It's not going to help small businesses. I know that's not what people that are shuttered are going to. But the more people that get vaccinated before, the sooner the better. The quicker that these restrictions go away, the quicker there's a plan to reopen. That sort of thing. So, to see it drop 21 years it's important, right? Like that's a huge drop. We're down, like I said, 21 years from then. So I think it's just, it's a massive boost, I think, to hope and confidence, that this vaccination campaign is actually going to end by the time that they say it's going to get done. And, right now they were targeting May 21st, right, as the day. Now it's as the day that they would get to everybody 12 plus. I mean, we're at May 11th now. I'm just looking at the calendar, and 10 days to go, and they only got to drop it another 12 years. So it looks like we're going to get there. Might even get there beforehand, and that's a big deal. So
let me ask you this before we kind of dive into the Jet stuff,
yeah,
because I mean, I know a lot of people, myself included, are watching, sitting at home, not able to do anything on the weekend. We throw on the Vegas Golden Knights, and they've got 7,500 people in the building, and Nashville just got approved for 12,000. And I mean, these were the places that everyone around here was scoffing at, laughing. They're insane. Everyone's going to die. Oh, it was a big disaster. And like really looking down upon them, they're somehow pretty much back to normal. They're moving forward. We're where we're at. Is that simply because they've had way bigger uptake on vaccines, or is there more to it than that, Scott?
I think, well, I would delve a bit into the opinionated side of that, and it's one, it's in large part vaccinations, I would say, because they've done it quicker than we have, right? So yeah, they had it worse. I mean, the U.S. has been the worst country throughout this pandemic. Maybe India is now getting up there in terms of, how many cases they're seeing there and the unfortunate circumstances there. But I think America always got the bad rap because it turned very political. It turned very much, we're not gonna, we don't believe in this virus or whatever it was, right? A lot of things. But the vaccination, I think, there's been a large uptick in their vaccinations. People getting them, eligibility dropped into the 20s there long before we even got to today. So I think that is part of it. If you're vaccinated, they're moving quicker back to normalcy, and I think that's important to see. I think for a lot of people that I don't know how safe they are. I haven't kept a huge amount of tabs on how many cases are coming out of these events or if they're seeing any. I don't know if there's a lot of reporting even going on with that. I'd have to look. But to start to see fans back in the buildings and stuff like that. I mean,
well, never mind the fans, Scott. I guess the question is just we're getting hammered by this third wave. Yeah. Where's the third wave down there? I mean, are they all immune because they all had it?
Well, that could be part of it, yeah. And the other thing, part of it too, is just vaccinations, right? Like, and maybe they are still turning a blind eye down there. I don't know exactly everything, right? But I think vaccinations do help, and I think we've seen that here. Because even in midst our third wave, a lot of these cases aren't happening in the older populations that have been vaccinated. We're not seeing the PCH or personal care home, outbreaks that we were seeing in the second wave. We're not seeing a lot of that. Deaths are still down based on the number of cases. I mean, these are good things, right? I mean, it's as much as it sucks that we're in this third wave and this has happened to us, like it's happened across the country. We're seeing, I suppose, fewer instances of death so far, and really the high risk populations of older folks have been largely vaccinated, especially in our personal care homes. Those people are as safe as you can be against this, and that's a boon, I think, to a lot of people. So it's tough. I mean, nobody liked this weekend. Nobody liked last week. Friday was a tough day. Sunday was a tough day. I see more hope now than I have, and I've been in this, and I know everybody's been in this. I've followed the numbers. I've reported on it almost every single day since it started, and this isn't. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just, there was days during, especially in November, December, where it was tough. It was bleak. It was dark, right? Because there was no vaccination hope. You didn't have it. I mean, I got my vaccine now. Remo's got his. Huss, do you have yours? Do you have your first shot yet? Yeah. I mean, I think that spurs on the the hope, right? That there is now a light at this end of the tunnel. I know that Raccoon has said that, and a lot of people, not a lot of people have kind of faith in government and stuff hasn't been great. But I from an objective standpoint, I see a hope and a light at the end of the tunnel, and I think I think a lot of people do. These days of dropping the vaccine eligibility down is huge, I think, for a lot of people, because that's what it does. It boosts kind of confidence, right?
So let me ask you this as we segue to the Jets, Scott. Is there a light of the tunnel at the end of this tunnel for Winnipeg Jet fans right now? Because
no vaccine right now for that.
No doubt about it. Although everything does reset to zero in a week, and that that's the reset Man, if we could have that for society, we'd be in a good spot. But listen, last night's game, I thought it was a very crummy start. They didn't really look ready to play. A couple big gaffes, ended up in the back of the net. They're playing catch up. They did look better. They certainly had the energy. I thought they worked hard right now. But man, I mean, you're not winning a lot of games in the NHL, especially against the teams that they will have to play, scoring one goal. I mean, what were your takeaways from last night's game before we get into tonight?
Yeah, I'm not going to be selling a lot of hope here on when it comes to this, right? I mean, it's not good, and I get it. Like I get that they're trying. I don't believe the teams, quit on Maurice. I think you saw that. I mean, teams that quit on their coaches don't try and put up 40 shots, put up 40 shots on another team. It's just whatever it is. I mean, as I wrote it down somewhere, I just don't have the paper with me. But there's a lot of guys. I mean, even though Kyle Connor scored 1 goal last night, he still only has 1 point in his last 8 games. I think Pierre-Luc Dubois has 1 or 2 points in his last 10. Andrew Kopp 1 and 6 or 2 and 6, something like that. So a lot of the guys that you were scoring earlier on in this season aren't producing at the moment, right? And so I mean, there's a huge confidence blow, I would suggest right now. It's tough to dig yourself out of a rut when you've lost 9 of your last 10, and the game that you won was a 4-0 blanking. That looks great on paper, but Calgary didn't show up in that game, right? Like Calgary was nowhere to be seen. Even Maurice said it, right? Like they didn't even get the chance to see what they wanted from Ville Heinola because Calgary didn't show up. I mean, like it's just one of those things right now. It's bad right now. It is, and you would hope that tonight, that if you're a fan and you know that this is Paul Stastny's 1,000th game, the emotion that they've struggled to manufacture during this stretch of games, that they can at least get up for a guy who's kind of been, for a lot of these players, especially, back in 2017-18 and now this year, a real kind of pillar for some of the young guys to lean on, even the coaching staff, guys, because Paul Stastny is essentially a player coach, right? Like, I mean, this is a guy who he's a huge part of this leadership group in this team. And so you would hope that they would come out and respond to at least that. And that would be perhaps maybe a catalyst to kind of getting these good vibes, these good feelings back that they're talking about going to the playoffs. Because, you have 2 games left. You're running out, or you have already run out of runway, right? You're already off onto the grass at the end of the runway, and the plane still hasn't gone up in the air yet. And so, you don't have a lot of time before the plane goes and crashes into the trees or the fence or whatever it is, right? And so it's tough to sell hope right now. I mean, it is. I was on with Kenny and Rennie after last night, and it's a tough thing, right? Fans want it to be positive, and you're trying to find the positives right now, and it's difficult, and you don't want to be negative all the time, but it's hard not to be when there's very little right now.
They've won once in 10 games.
Exactly,
they won once in 10 games. I mean, it's pretty hard to sugarcoat that. And listen,
and I just don't see them. I don't know how you just flip that switch in, next week, whether it's Thursday they start or whenever, the latest thing is on that. Yes, I get it. It's a clean slate. Blake Wheeler has talked about that this week, but the clean slate needs to come with, a renewed sense of urgency in this team then, because it's not there right now.
Well, I've been looking. I mean, I think we've all sort of been looking that for a while, and it seemed like it's been there. Even at times last night, it seemed like it was there, but there were limited results from it. But I mean, so we've got the Canucks tonight, and then 1 game left with the Leafs. It'll still be up in the air as to, depending on what happens tonight and tomorrow, I guess, with Vancouver, Montreal. If the Jets win tonight, they're booked in for 3rd. That's that.
Yeah.
If they lose tonight and Montreal wins, then Montreal would actually jump over them, and they'd need a point against the Leafs.
Yeah.
I don't want to say there's not a lot at stake right now, but I mean, from Paul Maurice's perspective, I mean, he in fact said today he's not going to be coaching this game like a playoff game. And, I guess I sort of get that. We've seen a couple interesting roster changes. I mean, is this just a matter of getting through these next couple of games and then, hopefully doing exactly that, cleaning the sheet and starting off from scratch and hoping you can be better?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think part of it too is like you want, more than anything, kind of its mojo. And if you can find your mojo in terms of, Well, I know, but I do still think you need to win. Like, I mean, I'm flip flopping in my own head right now. It's like if you find your mojo, I think this team wins games, right? I think you beat Vancouver handily if you know how to play. You figure out your game again, right? Toronto may be a different story, but I don't think Toronto's going to be playing a lot of their top name guys either. Why risk it? Especially if you're Toronto, you're already locked in the first place. You aren't going anywhere. You don't care who you face. I mean, you want to be healthy, right? You want to go into these playoffs with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and Morgan Riley and all these guys healthy, right? So I think for the Jets, so it's different. You want to go into the playoffs with win probably in your back pocket, but not just a win. You want like a decisive win. Like you want it like you want it if you want to grind out playoff games to do, and that's probably what they're going to need to do. Then yeah, then go out and grind that game out. Play the way that you need to play. I think the Jets need to play the style of game in these last two games that is going to propel them to into the playoffs, and that's what they need to kind of find and harness before, whether it comes to wins or losses. I think the wins come with it too, because I think winning breeds a good feeling, right? Let's see, if the Jets felt that they played all right last night, I mean, Blake Wheeler says that it was a blah game. That's not the feeling you want to go into the playoffs after game 56 on Friday, right? Like, you don't want Blake Wheeler coming out and saying, oh, we played blah, but, next week, hopefully we're going to get her done. Well, I think they need a couple wins here to get rid of that blah feeling, right? At least to manufacture something, even if it's, I don't know if it's superficial or not, but you need to get something to a point where you feel better about your game, your team, your confidence. And I think winning is the thing that kind of breeds all of those things.
Yeah, a win would not be a win would be nice right now. I think, not that it will make a big difference in the end, but I think it'll probably make a lot of people just maybe feel a little bit better, cool it down a little bit before we get to the playoffs. Now, you may have not seen or heard this. Just before we came onto the air, it sounds like Kyprios was on with Rod Paterson.
Okay.
And he tweeted this out. Bad news for Jets fans. Real Kipper tells Rod Paterson's show Nikolai Ehlers won't be ready for the playoffs. Is that, I guess I was just going to say, was there any scuttlebutt about that amongst the media today? Was anybody talking about that? And I guess connected to that, you mentioned potentially Thursday. What do we know about when these North Division playoff games will start? Because the minute I saw that, I'm like, the later the better for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, so I've heard Thursday, but nothing's set in stone yet, I don't believe. But unless something's come out in the last, an hour or so that I haven't seen. I've heard Thursday, which is kind of odd because, let's say, the Jets play Friday. I think the last Northern game is, I want to say it's Saturday, Vancouver, Calgary, maybe. I could be wrong on that.
Are in, yeah.
Yeah. So, so I think that's it, right? And so that'd be great. I mean, I think every team in this division would just like a few days to just kind of relax for a little bit, not relax, but just get a little rest in, especially some of the nagging injuries now that are kind of piling up on some of these teams. I haven't heard that about Nick Ehlers. I mean, if that's just what he said now, then sure. I don't have any reason to not believe Nick Kyprios. He's been, a solid source on a lot of these things.
I have many reasons not to want to believe Nick Kyprios. I'll tell you that much.
And I think that's it. I mean, I asked this yesterday, I believe, about, is he still, no, maybe 2 days ago, but if Nick Ehlers is still on the same timeline. And Maurice said yes. And obviously, coaches aren't going to always tell you the truth. So, I think we're not going to really find this one out until probably game one, because coaches go into this playoff mode where they don't tell you anything, right? And you can't try and keep the teams guessing. That said, I mean, the injury is a suspected shoulder injury, potentially a separated shoulder. It's one of those injuries that once it heals, it's healed, right? It's not something that you have to kind of worry about going forward. The biggest thing is it's got to be healed before he can play again. We've heard about guys playing with separated shoulders before. I don't know if that will be a case. I suspect it's on. But the other thing is, we haven't seen Nick Ehlers in practice. We've seen him kind of out in a little bit of a skate. He's in non-contact and not taking shots just yet. So, I don't know if there's any alarm bells yet. I mean, again, Kyprios might know more than we know at this point. So if that's true, that it's obviously a bit of a blow. I wouldn't say a bit; it's a big blow not to have Nikolai Ehlers in your lineup, because I mean, you can see it over these games. They are missing his creativity. They're missing his zone entries, his zone exit. They're missing him on the power play. They just miss Nikolai Ehlers, and so that would be a tough thing. And that's, again, if that is true and they know that internally, then again, I think these games have an importance in terms of you need to find a way to produce offense without Nikolai Ehlers. And so if that's the case, then these games have probably even more importance than they would normally have given the circumstances right now.
Want to get to the milestone 1,000th game for Paul Stastny with you in a second. But before that, one other thing about the lineup coming out of coach this morning was 2 lineup changes. Ville Heinola coming out, Neil Pionk coming in. I was interested to see Dominic Toninado's making his Jets debut. I mean, is that just a reward to a guy that, has been playing hard, coming back? Certainly he was playing very well with the Moose. Or is this the sign that, hey, you know what, this guy might be needed to play at some point in the playoffs, and we'd like to have a game under his belt at some point if we actually need him?
Yeah, and Paul Maurice said he wasn't throwing a carrot, which would imply that this isn't a reward for, a quote-unquote good soldier. He called it an opportunity for Toninato. What that means, I don't know right now, right? I mean, is he the guy that goes in if Jansen Harkins doesn't have a good game, or Christian Vesalainen doesn't have a good game, or whoever plays on the fourth line? Is he additioning him if there's an injury up front? Is he a guy, if he can make his mark in this game and perhaps on Friday against Toronto? It seems like a really late in the season to start being additioning guys like Dominic Toninato and to get a good look at what he can actually do. But then again, guys can take advantage and go from there. I think the larger concern that I had today was why you're taking Ville Heinola out because he had the bad giveaway. I still think that Ville Heinola does a lot more. And I asked Paul Maurice about Derek Forbort today, and I know a lot of fans, a lot of listeners, people watching this will think, well, why is Derek Forbort in lineup? He's either dealing with an injury or he's just kind of gassing out after a very condensed season, and it's not working. But Maurice, made it very clear today that Derek Forbort is needed in the lineup, playing at his best if this team is going to win hockey games, right? So to me, I would disagree. I think they could go with Logan Stanley and Ville Heinola and see how it goes. I don't know what this team has to lose at this point by doing that. At worst, these are to move, and at best, there's higher upside, especially for a guy like Ville Heinola. But I'm not the coach.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Scott, because this came up a little earlier when we were talking about Ville Heinola. How much, if at all, do you think asset management and rolling his contract over plays into these games this week and whether we see him in the playoffs? Or is this just strictly a Maurice decision, whatever he thinks, win the game?
I think it's strictly a Maurice decision, right? And, I think he's still searching for his defensive pairings coming into the playoffs, right? That's part of the problem with this team is that, there are issues on the back end that haven't been solved this year, and they arguably haven't been solved in the last 2 seasons. And so that is a little bit of to me, it's a bit of a red flag. It is what it is. This is the way this team has been on defense. So on track thing, I think if Ville Heinola gave him the best chance to win, and I think he does at times, that they would play him. So maybe that's kind of a counterpoint to what I'm saying. But I think that Paul Maurice feels that Stanley in the lineup, and I think Logan Stanley played a great game last night. And then I think he believes in Forbort. I don't, it's that veteran presence. It's the excuse me, it's that guy that played with Drew Doughty before, and I get those types of things. I don't agree with them, but this is kind of Paul Maurice's MO, right? So I think that's where we're at on it.
All right, Scott Billeck with us from the Winnipeg Sun, getting ready for the Jets and Vancouver Canucks tonight. Jets will have one more game after this before the postseason against the Leafs later on this week, and we expect the North Division playoffs to begin early to mid next week in the National Hockey League. But as we mentioned, It's kind of nice to have another major topic for everyone to talk about other than winning 1 of 10 games. And certainly Paul Stastny and what he's brought to Winnipeg has been huge for the organization. I mean, he was, I don't think without question, the most impactful trade deadline acquisition the Jets have ever had, and what he did with the team in that 2018 run. And, to get him back this season, I think has made a big, big difference in a lot of ways. But man, was it fun listening to him today talk, Scott, about, his career, some of the funny stories. I'll give Murat, and the gang at The Athletic credit for a real fun piece where, they dug into things about his teeth and the love of Taco Bell. And I got to tell you, I mean, and again, I, like many people, are trying to look for reasons right now to, still maintain some confidence that this is not a lost season. And, there's, hopefully, better hockey ahead and, potentially some wins coming up. And I couldn't help but think that through all of this, it's maybe a good thing to be celebrating Paul Stastny and what he brings to the team, because his sort of even keel leadership, dedication, commitment is exactly what I think the Winnipeg Jets need right now from every single player in that lineup.
It's interesting that you say that. Honestly, Palmer, if the Jets do make a run in this postseason, by some sort of, miracle at this point, I think you owe a lot of credit to Paul Stastny for coming out after that 6-1 loss to Edmonton and saying, hey guys, and I don't think he was just speaking to the media. I think he was, he was out there speaking to his team too.
For sure.
Here's a guy that came out and said, hey, we've been playing like crap for the last 10, 15 or 20 games. And we got to figure it out now because, back then there was 12 games to go or something like that, and maybe 10. But I think, if the Jets do figure out a way to turn around, I think this is on Paul Stastny. And I think this speaks to who Paul Stastny is as a person, who he is as a teammate, and who he is as a leader on this team. And all of those things combined. I mean, if you've ever talked to Paul Stastny, if you've ever, he doesn't care who you are. He gives you the time of day. He loves to talk hockey. He loves to talk about the silly things like Taco Bell or, getting his face smashed in on multiple occasions where he just has no teeth. I mean,
Grade
you can see
7 from an aluminum bat in the grill.
Exactly. I mean, I've taken a baseball to the mouth and it sucks. But I never lost any teeth on it. And I've taken a few pucks, but again, no teeth loss. I mean, he's been essentially butchered at times. Basically what he's talking about, right? So, I think it's, I think it comes at a good time, right? Like we all knew this game was coming, assuming he didn't get injured. It was going to come at the end of the season. We didn't know that it would come at this point, in the midst of losing 9 of 10. But it almost lightens the mood a little bit, right? And again, maybe Paul Stastny is the catalyst again to changing the way that things are going with this team. We will see tonight what happens, obviously, how the Jets respond to that, how they also respond to how they've been playing. But Paul, there it is. That's it. That's it. It's incredible, right? I mean, and I think if the guys are in the room, how do you not go out and play for that guy? Like I said earlier on the show, I don't know how you don't go and do it. And I think that's what's been so important for Paul Stastny back in 2018, because he was the guy that kind of said, he kind of bucked that trend of, guys wouldn't waive their no trade clauses, right? And guys don't want to come to Winnipeg. Well, no, Paul Stastny said today, as he's gotten older, he wants to go to the teams that he wants to win, right? It's comfortable as much as it is about going to the teams that give you the best chance to win. And I think that's a good example, I think, to set for a lot of other players who are disgruntled in other places and always think the grass is greener on the other side or whatever, or just want to be in a comfortable spot living on the beach in Tampa or whatever, right? Some guys still truly want to win in this game. And I think Paul Stastny is one of those guys. And I think he chose Winnipeg then because he thought there were. I think he came back this year too because, I think it was just, he saw something in this team that they could do. They have the reigning Vezina winning goal, the reigning Vezina winner, and they have quite the offensive prowess. The defense obviously has been, again, suspect this year. But again, I think Paul Stastny kind of embodies this organization, right? Even though he's only been here for a year and, essentially 3 months that he had during that time, the trade deadline. Like, he's kind of the quintessential Winnipeg Jet and want to kind of exude what their values and attributes are, and so I think it's kind of fitting that it's here. I mean, it's interesting. You'll probably see the stick tonight. I know they were laying out the presentation last night when I was wrapping up late in the rink, and so they're going to have something for him. But yeah, I think it's just, if you're a fan, I think you kind of hope this night kind of, just it I don't want to say jarring, because that has a negative connotation, but just has a positive impact on, kind of where the team is at the moment on the ice, at least.
Scott, we're going to see Hellebuyck back in net tonight, and I think we all know that if the Jets are going to do anything come round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs, Connor Hellebuyck is going to need to be the Vezina Trophy winning, game-stealing man between the pipes. Do you see him playing both of these games? Does it depend on tonight? How do you think things will be handled when it comes to Hellebuyck, going through these final two games? Because we sure as hell know that barring any sort of injury, he's going to be the guy getting the call in game number one.
Yeah, I think if the Jets know that the playoffs start on Thursday, then he's playing both games, because, you play Friday and then you essentially have a week off between games. And one thing we've all known about Connor Hellebuyck and this team is they don't like to rest him longer than, a couple days, right? They want to keep him going. And so I think Connor Hellebuyck, these games are needed for him too. Like, I'm not pinning a lot of the goals on him, even recently on him. He hasn't let in a lot of softies. I mean, you talk about some of the goals he let in the game against Ottawa. I mean, two of them were deflection goals, and those are hard to save. But to your point, Connor Hellebuyck, if the Jets has to find a way to save those shots, right? I mean, some of them are almost impossible. But Connor Hellebuyck has made shots into saves at before, and so yes, I mean, Connor Hellebuyck needs to. I hate saying to up his game, because, I mean, this is the guy who won the Vezina last year by essentially dragging a team into the playoffs by himself on many nights. But he has to do that. I mean, that's really it. I think he knows that. I mean, I don't think Connor Hellebuyck is a guy that is unaware of the fact that a lot of this rides on him, because even if the Jets do get their kind of, defensive game in order over the two games, they're still going to either be playing Matthews and Marner or McDavid and Draisaitl, and you're going to have to make those saves that you haven't maybe made in the past. When you got your foot on that one shot late in the game against Edmonton earlier in the season, but you didn't get your full pat on it, you didn't make the save, and the Jets lost that game. Those are the saves that you're just going to have to make. It's unfortunate that he's in that situation. They don't have that kind of defense you can kind of deal with, but the Jets also are going to have to figure out how to score again in these playoffs if they're going to want to win, because you're going against two high-powered offensive teams. So Connor Hellebuyck is going to have to be way. I don't want to say way. He's going to have to be at his very, very best during this playoffs. And I think, to answer your question, I think he probably does end up getting both games. Because I think he needs to kind of get back into that rhythm. Obviously, he had a little bit of a stinger on his blocker hand. I think that's what kept him out last night. I don't think they're playing Eric Comrie as a backup. As a nice thing to do, even though he had just been named the Masterton guy. I think they had to give Hellebuyck a little bit of rest just in case you don't want that to turn into something. Obviously, he's now fine and playing tonight. I think he needs his mojo back just as much as anybody else.
Yeah, no doubt. And a win, I think, for the goaltender, much as anyone would be big for him. Because I think the one thing that we know, Scott, about Connor Hellebuyck, and it's always entertaining for those of us in the media, and I think for fans that listen to him, is that he has no BS filter. I mean, he comes and says exactly what he feels. And it's been interesting to hear, the optimism from Hellebuyck over the last couple of weeks, funny quotes as if the guys are saving their goals for the playoffs, that's awesome. I mean, they sort of have been doing that. And you hope these are all self-fulfilling prophecies that come through. But when it comes back down to it, you're right. Hellebuyck's going to need to be brilliant. But I mean, you can only be so good in net against teams like Edmonton and Toronto. Again, it comes back to doing that, being better defensively. but it can't be at the complete expense of all offense. And unfortunately, that's sort of what it seemed like lately, albeit, a lot of shots and a lot of, some better quality scoring chances last night that you hope something can come out of it. How big is that goal for Kyle Connor? I mean, I know you said, to me, it was the goal. It was also the 4 shots. It was also the fact that he was just seemingly so much more involved and actually had opportunities because, he was basically at or less than a shot a game for the better part of this losing streak. And that, to be honest, Scott, that number is as concerning as anything because, we know how much Kyle Connor is playing. We know who he is playing with. And, unfortunately, if they're not getting anything from those guys, especially with Ehlers out, it's hard to wrap your head around the path to victory if something like that doesn't change.
Yeah, exactly. And we know how lethal that Kyle Connor shot can be, right? That's a guy who can tuck it short side, top cheese, and he knows how to do that, right? He can lift the puck from the top of the crease and get it top cheese over a guy as well. This is a guy that is, would have scored probably 40 goals last season if not for COVID. Need that again. He's got 23 this year now after that, but he hadn't been scoring. He hadn't been doing anything. No assists, nothing up until that goal. And like you said, kind of when you were talking there, it wasn't just that, though. It was just the shots weren't there. He wasn't getting the opportunities to even score goals. And so, there was a bit of a confidence dip there, I think, for Kyle Connor. He didn't want to talk about it on Sunday when I asked him about it, right? He had no interest in talking about it. It's bothering a guy who is obviously paid to do that, but also just knows that he can do that. Nobody's going to argue the fact that Kyle Connor, it is just a flash in the pan. This guy has scored, 30 goals now, I think, other than this year, I think for the last two or three seasons. Or been at least close to that. This guy can score goals. And yes, if Nikolai Ehlers is out to start the playoffs, they need him showing up. But they also need Mark Scheifele and Blake. That line has to be unbelievable. They talk about, kind of almost having to play a perfect game. And it is true, right? If they need, it can't be just one line going every night. They need at least 2, maybe 3 lines even putting the pressure on because you have to wear down the other team at the same time. If you can get the body on McDavid or on Matthews and Marner, there is a blueprint to beating these guys, and we've seen it. You can keep McDavid sort of off the score sheet by getting the body on him and doing those types of things, right? Making it difficult for him. He's tough. He's
staying out of the box.
Exactly, staying out of the box. That's because you take a penalty, right? He's playing all 2 minutes. He's playing all 2 minutes. They don't care. He doesn't care. He's playing all 2 minutes, and everybody knows it. So, it's a lot of, you have to essentially play a very disciplined game, especially with him. It's hard, right? Because he blows by you, and your first instinct, we all play by you. The first instinct is just to kind of slow him down. And slowing him down often leads to a penalty with that guy because you're sticking a stick out or foot or whatever it is, right? Or he's blowing by you without the puck and you try and check him and it's an interference call. It's difficult to play against that guy, but that can't just be, that sucks. This guy's too good. No, you got to figure out a way to contain him. And so, I think a part of containing him too is scoring, because if you're scoring, you're playing in the offensive zone, you're limiting, McDavid's time in the offensive zone. That's going to be a huge thing if that's the playoff series. So we'll see. Yeah, it's a tough one, obviously. It's not easy. Nobody's saying, but winning the Stanley Cup is not easy, and moving on, winning a playoff round is not easy. So maybe the Jets will be, they're obviously the underdogs. Maybe that will play against them. There is a lot of pressure on Toronto and a lot of pressure on Edmonton for those teams to move on. A guy like McDavid and Draisaitl or Matthews and Marner, and how those teams, and especially Toronto, has loaded up. So, maybe the Jets can play and riff on that a little bit, but I still think it doesn't matter if they don't have their game right. They need to have their game right.
Nothing coming easy right now for the Winnipeg Jets. And, maybe, a couple guys can score over these next couple games and start feeling it going into next week. There will be a break, but we pretty much know the way things are looking right now. You got 6 more periods of hockey to try to start feeling a bit better about your game. And then none of that matters, and you get ready for a Herculean challenge going up against, if not the best player in the world, certainly a guy that is right there at the top of the goal scoring leaders with an incredible season of his own. Scott, great stuff, man. Thanks so much for doing this as always. Oh, I can still hear you. Absolutely. Hey, this is beautiful. Hopefully we can catch up next week right around the start of the playoffs. Always appreciate you coming on with us. Check out his work in the Winnipeg Sun. That is Scott Billeck. Now, we're going to head to Buffalo in just a second and talk with our pal Joe Yerdon to get the latest on the Jack Eichel situation. Just heading in there, we are now 6 days away from opening day at Assiniboia Downs next Monday, May 17th. Unfortunately, without fans, we'll be back to live racing on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday schedule. It was so successful last year for them through the pandemic with the incredible reach of the broadcast. They'll have huge wagering pools as we had last year, and you can bet at it all by using the HPIBet.com website, signing up not just for Assiniboia Downs, but being able to bet all around the world on horse racing. Remo and I, starting next week, will have some daily picks. That's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have Darren Dunn coming on for the beginning of the season. But again, you get ready, mark it down on your calendar, May 17th, 7:20 parade to post for the first time this year. And a big shout out to our friends at Royal Sports, as everyone is dealing with another lockdown right now. The one thing you can do safely is get outside. Whether you're kicking around a soccer ball with someone in your household, playing a bit of catch, or maybe trying out disc golf like we've been talking about. They've got all the equipment to get you set to get outside and make the most of this time that we're dealing with right now. Of course, they've got an incredible selection of bikes coming in weekly as well, despite a worldwide bicycle shortage. So head on down, Royal Sports, 650 Raleigh in EK, or the Superstore, 750 Pembina Highway. I guarantee you, one stop to Royal will take care of all of your needs, and you will be set for spring and set for summer. All right, let's welcome in my guy, Joe Yerdon in Buffalo. Joe, great to talk to you again, man. How's things?
Things are well, Huss. Well, at least not hockey related things are well, I guess. Everything else is beautiful and sunny in Buffalo, but it's that permanent black cloud hanging over the KeyBank Center.
Are Sabres fans happy that it's over again?
I guess I think they've been happy that it's been over for a while. I know I put up a poll a few days ago, before the last game of the season, saying, are you happy it's over, or were you done with them 3 months ago? And I think most everybody said 3 months ago I was about done with this team. So yeah, it's I think everybody's happy it's done it out of the way.
Well, hey, it was nice to see them, gut out some wins down the stretch, and just for the players. I mean, you couldn't help but feel terrible for them and what they were going through this year. But let's face it, the huge story yesterday, not just in Buffalo, but around the National Hockey League, was Jack Eichel's end of season media availability. That was icy, my friend. Let me ask you this. And, he talked about needing to look out for Jack Eichel first. He mentioned that there was a disconnect between he and the team about the treatment for his injury, and then talked about wanting to play next year, wherever that may be. What was the reaction amongst you and the Buffalo media as to what Jack had to say? Were you caught off guard by just how straight, upfront he was about where he's at right now, or have you been following along enough to think that, considering the situation, that was pretty much what we should have expected?
Well, I this was something where you knew something was off concerning the injury, because from the moment he was put on IR and out of play, and there wasn't really a lot of discussion about his progress, how things were going along, what had actually happened. There wasn't much discussion of that at all, and until things started getting into the crazy rumor mill around the city, where people were getting messages on Facebook where, hey, I heard, Johnny heard that, Bobby heard that Susie heard that Jack.
Oh, that happens in Buffalo too.
Oh yeah. It's wild how that turns out in some of these smaller cities, and it'd become a bit of a Ferris Bueller kind of setup where you just start hearing about Jack was at 31 Flavors and he was trying to turn the place over, and instead it was a thing where it took all that to come up for the team to finally say, all right, here's the issue, here's what's going on, and he's done for the year. And when we find out yesterday that that it's a neck, that's fully a neck injury that he's dealing with, which is serious. But I mean, let's be serious, let's be real here. A neck injury is nothing to mess around with. And the fact that there's a difference of opinion of how they want to do it, Jack went for a second opinion based on what the Sabres doctors had found. And, apparently he wants to get it worked on, and the team is hesitant or, just flat out doesn't want him to do it that way. It's a bad scene. It's a really bad scene. And, in Jack's case, like, he wants to do what's best for him. And honestly, if I had a neck injury and somebody was telling me, like, just work it out and it'll be fine, I might be a lot hesitant about that, because it's my freaking neck, like, you want to play hockey at full speed, and, freak things can happen. And if I'm going out there with any sort of like neck issue, is my head going to be in the game? With that in the back of my mind.
That's life-changing stuff, man. I mean, if you don't get that taken care of properly, and the fact that there would be a major difference of opinion, I think is concerning right from the get-go about what is the issue with the injury and, how that can be the case. You would think that both the player and the organization would have the exact same goal, and that's to get the player back to 100% and in the lineup. And you wonder where that difference of opinion is. What's the consensus? I mean, when you talk to, the other guys that, and yourself, obviously following the Buffalo Sabres every day, what is the feeling on Jack Eichel's future in Buffalo? Is it bleak? Is it highly unlikely that he's back right now? Or is this one of those things that it sounded bad right now, but they still do have him signed for a long time? This will work itself out, and we'll see Jack Eichel centering the Sabres at the opening faceoff next year.
It's bleak. It's very bleak, given the way Jack sounded yesterday and some of the details that came forth in what Elliot Friedman had reported today in his column. This seems really bad between the team and the player. This seems like the kind of thing that it seems like irreconcilable differences where this just seems done, because Jack's very worried about his future of being able to play hockey and his own health, the way he describes it. So that to me says, why wouldn't you take care of the guy that you've got signed for, five more years at $10 million a pop? That sounds to me like that would be a no-brainer for the team to say, yeah, you do what you need to do, get it taken care of. We support you, and, we'll do what's best. Instead, you're battling not necessarily tooth and nail, but you're not agreeing to what he wants to get done. And, that kind of disarray is just that's not helpful for anybody, because if you consider that, if Buffalo holds steady and says, listen, we're not going to let you do that. And Jack says, okay, well, time to trade me. And then they say, well, we're not going to trade you. You're with us for the next 5 years, as far as we're concerned. Okay, well, you're not going to get the best out of me at all, because I'm going to be too busy worrying about my neck. And, if I decide to, if you guys continue to, hold me off from getting this done, it's going to drag this whole thing out. So this is it's all kinds of bad. And this is the kind of thing where it seems very difficult to come back from between the player and the team. Now, I'm not saying it's totally done, but I mean, I think I just said in another interview, I give it about a 2% chance that he'll be back in Buffalo next season. So, I mean, it's bad. It's bad, man.
It was hard to take anything else from those comments yesterday. Now, I guess they'll figure out whether Don Granado's going to stay on and be the permanent head coach, or what they're going to do at the coaching level. Kevin Adams is still the GM. It was still one of the biggest head scratchers when they made that move during the pandemic, moving him into a job without any experience from a business side of things, working for the Pagulas. I guess the question is, Joe, I mean, trading Jack Eichel is a franchise-altering decision. Mm-hmm. They went through a lot to guarantee themselves no worse than second pick in that draft, as you will recall. Mm-hmm. It was ugly. Hopes were way higher for Buffalo. But if they trade him, is the confidence there that Kevin Adams is the guy to maximize the value for a franchise player like Jack?
I think they're forced to have confidence in that. And I'm not going to be conspiracy theorying this here, but this is probably a good reason why it's nice to have Peter Karmanos along for the ride in Buffalo now to kind of help this out. Somebody who's got a little bit more experience in the ins and outs of dealing with the NHL, other NHL executives and how teams do things. I think that will help out Adams a lot. But this is, I think when we talked before the season began, I said I wasn't envious of being in Kevin Adams' shoes of trying to steer this ship.
Definitely not.
And this is way worse because you're talking about a fan base that is already mentally checked out on this team. And, the Bills' success has some part of that because you can just say, well, the football team's great. If the hockey team's great too, cool. That's the perfect world. But more people were so excited by what happened with the Bills that when it's time for the Sabres, people were like, oh yeah, these guys. Okay, well, let's see what happens. And now you're talking about a rebuild that's been going on for 6 years, 6-7 years now since you drafted Sam Reinhart. Was really when it began. And he didn't sound like he wanted to stick around much longer either yesterday. So you're talking about tearing down a rebuild that never got off the ground and starting brand new again, which, I guess if you burn down a forest that only has saplings in it, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But there's still ashes everywhere, and you can't, you're not going to have any fans to come back to here. And not to mention the other business possibilities out there. Like, if you're a big time sponsor of this team and you're given, hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Sabres because you want to be on the broadcast or you want to have your names on the boards or whatever, you take out Eichel, you take out Reinhart, you take out all these guys, and you're starting over again with with Dylan Cousins and 19 other dudes.
Well, here, let me ask you this.
Do you really want to be paying for advertisement on there? Nobody's going to see it.
No, I do not envy the guys in the corporate sales department right now of Buffalo that are getting ready for next season. So from a hockey perspective, and I guess an organizational perspective, what do they need to get back in a Jack Eichel trade that to make it make sense for the Buffalo Sabres to actually pull the trigger on it right now? You don't want to trade $1 for 4 quarters. We've seen that beforehand. And look at the Ryan O'Reilly trade and what that did for St. Louis and what that did for Buffalo. A perfect example of that sort of thing. What would the ask be? What would it take to get it done? Because I can tell you right now, in every market in the NHL that is not in the playoffs today, all they're talking about is what we could do to get Jack Eichel out of Buffalo. I've heard it in Edmonton today, and they're in the playoffs. Calgary, right. That was all they were talking about earlier, and I imagine that's happening as well in a lot of other spots. What makes sense for Buffalo?
Well, I tell you what, if it's Calgary, you're going to really probably make Jack mad. You're probably not going to make Jack very happy by sending him to the Canadian Rockies. But if you're,
how about the Prairies? How about the Prairies? He'd look good in the Jet jersey, Joe. You don't think that would be?
He'd look really sharp. I think he'd look great in that. But I think that was a path the Sabres and Jets should have gone down a few years ago when there was a rumored Ristolainen for Ehlers deal that was out there, and when everybody was mad at Ehlers for not being able to score in the playoffs, and boy, that would have looked really bad.
Jets need to get Eichel to play with Ehlers. So
yes,
at the end of the day, though, what's funny, and again, Jets have playoffs going forward, but if they were in a position to make a significant roster shakeup, and there was the potential of doing that. If I'm Kevin Adams, I'm not trading Jack Eichel if I'm not getting a legit number 1 center back as well as some other pieces, to hopefully help the rebuild. And to be perfectly honest, and this is just more a fun sports talk conversation right now when we're talking about players and contracts. Mark Scheifele's got one of the, most team-friendly contracts in the league at just over $6 million. He signed for another 3 seasons. If I'm Kevin Adams, and frankly, if I'm the Pagulas, I'm looking for a player like that to be sort of the starting point of a package for Jack Eichel.
Yeah, no, and that would be a shame for Jack if he got traded to Winnipeg and Scheifele wasn't there. Jack loves Scheifele. He loves the way he plays. He's complimented his play before. So that would be a huge bummer for Jack to go there and not have Scheifele be like his number 2 center. But you're right, that the kind of package you need. Like if you're sending him to Calgary, I want Matthew Tkachuk at least. in that deal. Like, and I know Calgary wouldn't want to give him up. Their idea would be Tkachuk and Eichel playing.
Here's the thing about Tkachuk that would be so dangerous for a team like Buffalo is that Tkachuk signed a 3-year deal at $7 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
The last year is $9 million. So he has to be qualified at $9 million just to maintain his rights. And then you got to figure out a long-term extension. And if he doesn't like it, he says, no problem. I'll just sign the qualifying offer, make $9 million, and be a free agent at the end of the year. They just signed a guy to a big money deal on 1 year, knowing he was unrestricted free agent at the end. And, well, Taylor Hall's now in Boston. So, I mean, to me, if you're talking about Calgary, I mean, maybe you want the opportunity to do that with Tkachuk. But, I mean, I don't know how you even consider doing that without getting Elias Lindholm back, who's probably more along the Scheifele lines of, a productive player, maybe not quite at the level of Eichel at his best, but comes with some term and a relatively team-friendly contract, which I think would be important for the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, I think if your package is Lindholm and Tkachuk, then I think that's a really high up one that you say yes to, because you got your risk with Tkachuk, but I don't know, maybe work out a deal with him before his contract's up, maybe get him extended before anything goes haywire again. Right. They haven't done it. The only guy they did it with here in Buffalo was Eichel. And, that's gone sideways. They never did it with Reinhart, and now he's ready to walk out the door. So, stupid as a stupid does, as Forrest Gump would say. But I mean, if you're talking about shipping them to the West, I mean, I immediately look at teams like Anaheim or LA as possible teams. I mean, LA's got the prospects to make it work. I think if you start a package with Byfield and Turcotte and a first, yeah, I think you do that. I mean, it's really young and you're gonna have to wait, but if you're already rebuilding, well, you've already got 2 centers to make it work. And same thing for a team like Anaheim. I don't think they would give up a guy like Drysdale, but if you're giving them Jack Eichel, I think your package starts with Drysdale or maybe Zegras, and you say, okay, let's go from here and build out. I know, Buffalo would love to get their hands on John Gibson, but like, what team wouldn't? I don't imagine that Anaheim would want to give up John Gibson in a trade, even for Jack. But if Gibson's on the table, that's one where you say, I think if you're Anaheim, you bite the bullet and you say, okay, all right, but we got to find a goal. Issue 2 is get a goalie now to make this work.
Well, I got to tell you, Joe, we always love talking puck with you on this program and over the years here in Winnipeg. And I have a feeling we'll be having a few more conversations on this very topic as we go forward. Hey, listen, before I let you go, you've been spending a lot of time watching the East, and it was a real top-heavy division. It was weird. The Islanders were first. They were so good all year long. They kind of pulled a bit of a Jets and kind of stumbled into the playoffs. They're at fourth. Pittsburgh, Islanders, and then Washington, Boston. What do you think about those 2 series? And if you had to pick a team to come out of that into the Final Four, who's your pick in the East?
Well, I tell you, Pittsburgh Islanders, if this had happened a month ago, would be a knockdown, drag-out series. I think the way the Pens are playing right now is just dynamite. And the Isles, well, I mean, listen, I had a front row seat to watching Michael Hauser win his first NHL game and his first NHL start against the Islanders. And they didn't look very good the next night against Buffalo either, allowing Hauser to go 2-0 to start his career. So I'm not really feeling it on the Islanders. I mean, yeah, things can snap out of it, and the playoff style is certainly more in line for the way Barry Trotz coaches up his team. So I'm going to be really interested in that one, but I think Pittsburgh rolls. Washington, Boston's going to be a war. But I think the health for Washington is the big question. I mean, Ovi's going to want to be ready to go no matter what, but I'm worried about him there. I mean, Oshie's been playing fantastic hockey lately, and Kuznetsov really needs to kind of snap out of it and catch a hot streak here. But I think a Boston Pittsburgh division final seems the way to go. And, I've been picking against Pittsburgh all season long. I didn't even think they're going to make the playoffs, but geez, they're making me look really stupid. So I feel like I have to pick Pittsburgh to come out of it just so that I can correct things going the other direction. They've been playing awesome hockey, and adding Jeff Carter to that team, that's exactly what they needed. Now Malkin's back. Like, it's really tough to hate on how Pittsburgh's doing. And Mike Sullivan's one unbelievable coach.
Yeah, Crosby's had an amazing season as well.
Yeah,
Very.
they even mentioned Crosby.
Well,
Jeez.
we focus so much on, Connor McDavid and his brilliance and the goals that Austin Matthews scoring. And heck, those of us here, I mean, the North Division has been like its own league. I mean, it's been challenging. I mean, if you're a casual fan and you're just throwing on, I mean, you'll get the highlights of the other American games. I mean, the focus has all been on the Canadian teams. It's been just such a weird year, no matter what market you've been in. Some markets a little bit more fun for the fans than others, and unfortunately, the very loyal members of the Sabres tribe have been disappointed yet again. But there will be a draft lottery coming up. There'll be lots of talk about Jack Eichel going forward, and no shortage of things for you and the rest of the gang there in Buffalo to talk about before we get to Bill season, Joe.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting summer for all the wrong reasons for the Sabres, because nobody wants to be in the lottery again, and certainly nobody wants to be dealing Eichel and Reinhart, but that feels like that's what's going to happen here eventually.
Hey, pal, thanks so much for doing this. Great to talk to you again, and let's catch up soon, hopefully during the playoffs.
Yeah, it'd be great to do that, Huss. Always a good time.
Great stuff. Give him a follow on Twitter if you haven't already. That is our pal Joe Yerdon, longtime reporter covering the Buffalo Sabres. So great stuff with Joe. Lots of good talk with Scott Billeck. We've got a game tonight. Jets and the Vancouver Canucks. 2 more games in the regular season. Finish it up against the Leafs going into the weekend, and then the playoffs will begin next week. We will get to the Cool Bet lines in just a minute. And I will tell you, speaking of Cool Bet, check out the Lock Shop today. Dustin Nielsen and I did it about an hour or so before we came on the air with Winnipeg Sports Talk today. We broke down a little bit of talk, Jets, Oilers, talked about some baseball for tonight, and got into the golf picks. And of course, when we're talking golf, we're always doing it for Breezy Bend. Shout out to the Breezy Bend Monday putter team. Got some friends on there. Had a great start to the defense of their championship to begin the season. So great to hear that from those guys. And of course, find out more at Breezy Bend at breezybend.ca. DJ out of the Byron Nelson. I think he had too much fun on the weekend. He's decided that he will not be playing. It switched the odds a little bit. Earlier today when we did the Lock Shop, it was 9-1 for the 2 favorites, down from 10, now down to plus 850. Bryson DeChambeau and John Rahm are the top favorites for the event. You got Jordan Spieth, 12-1, Berger 18, Matthew Fitzpatrick 20, Scotty Scheffler 20, and then I'm taking a good look at Brooks Koepka and Will Zalatoris right now at 25-1. Kind of like those numbers, but we've seen a lot of long shot winners in this tournament before, so maybe you go a little further down. All the picks, check out Lock Shop. And as far as the Cool Bet lines, we've only got 2 games in the National Hockey League tonight. We talked about Washington and Boston. Nobody's dressing for Boston, so the Caps have become a huge favorite at minus 204. And the Winnipeg Jets are a heavy favorite with Connor Hellebuyck coming back into the net, minus 192 for the Canucks, or for the Winnipeg Jets over the Vancouver Canucks. That game tomorrow, that is still key to this playoff race, depending on what happens tonight. Edmonton and Montreal right now scheduled as a pick'em. I think some questions as to how the Oilers will handle that final game of the season, and will there even be anything to play for based on what happens in tonight's Winnipeg and Vancouver game. Let's get Remis back in here. Remo, good stuff with Scott. Good stuff with Joe, as always. The chat seems to have been active throughout this afternoon.
Yeah, everyone's having a fun time in there. A lot of great Jets discussion, as always, just speculating. I think some people, moving on to the off season and what's going on, just the way things are going. Speaking of the off season, I did get the alert on my app that Frank Saravalli has his free agent frenzy hot list. I don't know if it's called the hot list. The top 30 of, what's it called? Who knows? They got the trade bait list. This is just the free. Mm-hmm. Dougie Hamilton, number 1, right defenseman. So you have to think the Jets would be interested, and I was just...
How good would he look on the Jets?
Yeah,
man.
That's definitely the type of guy that they need. But as far as defensemen go, I mean, it's kind of thin. Like Tyson Barrie, I think he's had found a nice fit in Edmonton. I don't know if he's the type of guy. I mean, they need a shutdown D. Alec Martinez, I think, would be a good fit.
Your guy.
That's my guy.
You love that guy.
But he's 34, but I mean, that's kind of how old you are when you get to free agency. But he has experience. Cup champion with the Kings. And another one, the next D, Adam Larson, Mr. 1-for-1. That's the next defenseman. And then you keep going down the list. Jamie Alexiak.
Mr. 1-for-1. I just love that.
That's his name, Mr. 1. No?
I know. Yeah, it is.
What are you? That's
You
what
coined
everyone
it.
knows.
It's a perfect nickname, and the minute you say it, I know exactly what you're talking about, which is why it's great.
But I mean, it says something about him. You know, we can joke at the name Mr. 1-for-1, but he's number 13 on this list. So obviously he's an effective defenseman, but he will
Where's
always...
Taylor Hall on that list? Is he over or under 13?
Taylor Hall. Oh, he's number 3.
Okay. So
Taylor Hall's number 3. But the other defenseman, Jamie Alexiak, I think he's... I had 18, 20, number 20.
well, that was the guy that they were
Yes.
so horny for at the deadline and just couldn't manage to close the deal, unfortunately. Certainly, it would have been great to get Alexiak here, but it didn't happen. Jordy Ben's here. He'll be in the lineup tonight, along with Logan Stanley for the Winnipeg Jets. I have to ask you this, and I've seen a number of people coming off the conversation with Joe Yerdon on Jack Eichel's situation. Where do you stand on Jack Eichel? And if he were available in the offseason, Remis, how aggressive would you be if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff? Or is that just not a fit for the Winnipeg Jets, considering a $10 million sticker price on a guy that probably, as Joe said, wouldn't be too fired up to come to Winnipeg with 5 years left on his deal?
Yeah, I mean, he's a great player. I think he's obviously had a down year because of injuries, but he's up there with the NHL elites. I think if you're the Jets, you already have Scheifele and Dubois, so you'd probably...
Well, you're one of those guys is going to start the package. And again, I'm not sure which one would be more attractive. Probably Scheifele, because, the numbers that he puts up, the contract, the only 3 more years. The thing with the Dubois chip is the fact that, he's still a restricted free agent, and presumably you'd be able to get through that and then sign a long-term deal, which might keep the player as a member of the organization for a longer time. But it's starting with one of those 2 players, and then there's going to be more stuff added.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated about this Eichel situation because I'm a huge fan of his. I thought that he was definitely a contender for the Hart Trophy last season with the way that he played. It was really a one-man show. And wherever he ends up, assuming that he is traded, he'll also have a lot to prove, because whatever team gets Jack Eichel is going to have to give up a king's ransom, you would imagine. And who knows, maybe this is a great thing for Buffalo, because, with a player of Eichel's level, there will be a ton of suitors right now. That no trade clause hasn't kicked in. Buffalo's got to do what's best for themselves right now. But man, a lot of pressure on Kevin Adams to do the right deal, because wow, they've had so many missteps so far. You'd think that, making a bad decision with a bad return on a Jack Eichel trade puts you even further back, if that's possible, for where the Sabres are right now.
Yeah, look at the Ryan O'Reilly trade. Got a number of players, didn't help, and Ryan O'Reilly became, wasn't he the Conn Smythe, or was Bennington the Conn Smythe winner? Either way, Stanley Cup champion and number 1 center on that team for Ryan O'Reilly after that trade.
Yeah, that one did not work out well for the for the Buffalo Sabres. There's no doubt about that. How are you feeling about this game tonight? I mean, I talked with Billeck quite a bit about, hey, what are we looking for? Does it matter to you? Are we still in the libel? Listen, we're not going to learn anything about the club beforehand.
I think libel's takes expired. He said they're not going to learn anything. They got way worse since he said that, and I had been saying there's nothing to worry about.
Yes, but his point would be that doesn't matter. We still haven't learned anything. We've learned that they finished the season poorly, but there's no effect on the playoffs. That, I think, is what that take was. I'm not sure whether I'm totally there with it. It has been concerning if you watched all these games, but at the same time, we know the team can be way better. And to be honest, none of this, tonight's performance, Friday's performance, is actually not going to matter once they get to it next week. The concern is that they won't be able to be better, and that, I think, is the concern of any Jet fan that's been watching this club kind of struggle for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, we said last night, or said yesterday on the show, the Jets are a pretty serious home favorite for a team that hasn't won won once in 9 games, and they lost. So if you were on Vancouver as the underdog against a heavily favored Jets team, you did well. Well,
Jets 280 makes a great point.
What?
The boys got to get the win for Stastny tonight.
They're favored again. Minus 170 is the current number that I have. Whatever, it might be different, but they're big favorites, and they've won once in the last 10 games. I don't know how you can be that big of a favorite, but they do have Stastny 1000. I saw Ehlers posting it on Instagram. He was on this program saying he's the smartest player he's played against. I think they get it. I don't think you lose back-to-back at home against Vancouver. Holtby's starting. It's not Demko. You know, those chances maybe that Demko made the great saves on, maybe some of those go in. I think they win tonight, but I mean, that's a big favorite for a team that has won one in their last 10.
Yeah, and you know what is concerning too? Or actually, maybe this is a good thing because the Jets are not going to have home ice in the first round, and unless the 3 and 4 seeds win, there's no chance they'll have it in the second round. I mean, the Jets' road record is still really good, 17, 10, and 1 on the season. But man, with what's happened at home as of late, they're now 11, 13, and 2 at home, and maybe the fans should be giving themselves the Barry Horowitz because we've heard that there hasn't been. They're trying to manufacture the emotion, which has been difficult. The fans obviously bring that, but they're going to need to find it, and they're going to need to figure it out because I'm pretty sure that the Leafs and Oilers aren't going to need to be manufacturing anything when things get going in Game 1.
There's a lot of stuff, that the team says, like, we haven't been able to find the emotion. Well, I mean, and they do qualify by saying, every other team is also in the North Division playing without fans. So you got to find, other teams are finding a way to win at home. You got to find a way to win at home too. And looking at the numbers or the probabilities from Dom at the Athletic, he's got the Jets at 60% chance to win. And they're on a back-to-back. The Canucks are have this heavy schedule that ends 6 and 9.
No one can use back-to-back as an excuse tonight because they played each other last night.
No, I was saying the Jets are. But the Canucks are playing their 6th game in 9 nights, which I think is worse than back-to-back 6 and 9.
Oh. Well, it's that and back-to-backs. I mean, they're essentially playing 3 games every 4 nights right now.
Yeah, so it's not going well for Vancouver. I think, the Bullet was in chat. He was saying, Vancouver is easy money tonight. But I think it's tough to win back-to-back. And the Jets, I know they're favored and they haven't done well, but they got to win. I think they played well enough to win.
I think the Jets win tonight. I think the Jets win tonight. Again, how much we take from it. I mean, they could go out and win 10-0, and I wouldn't be here going, well, we fixed that. All right, let's go. Bring on the Oilers. I think there's going to be, some continued, work. Hopefully getting healthy, hopefully getting Ehlers back. If you're just tuning in right now or missed some of the show earlier on, Nick Kyprios on the Rod Peterson show today dropped his little bomb, #insider, that Nick Ehlers is not going to be ready for the playoffs. I think you can all join me in hoping that he is dead wrong on that, but I will give Kipper credit. He has had a lot of good information in the past. So that is concerning, but I guess before we worry about that, Reem, we got to figure out when these games are, who the Jets are playing, and a big part of that can be figured out tonight at the end of this game between Jets and Vancouver.
Yeah, the playoffs starting Saturday, which seems soon. But it seems like the North Division, they're still going to do these meaningless Vancouver-Calgary games.
You know what? It's the consolation final. You signed up for the tournament. You're guaranteed 4 games, and you're getting your games coming in before the meaningful playoff games happening later on. It is bizarre, but they got to do it, so they're going to do it. The games won't mean anything, and I mean, what those games look like, how Vancouver and Calgary even handle those games is actually going to be somewhat fascinating. I may even check it out a little bit as they go forward, because both of those teams are headed for the draft lottery right now, but they have to get those games in. And, the Leafs have a couple more as well, including the game against Winnipeg, but they'll wrap all these games. And I would imagine that the series, assuming that it's Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Toronto, Montreal, get going before the Flames and Canucks have actually finished their regular season games.
I think they should do that. And comment from Rob in chat. He says, a time zone issue will plague the Jets tonight.
Time zones are back to being banned. Banned on this program. We're not talking about time zones anymore.
Yeah,
especially when the teams played each other last night. They're doing it again. And once we get to the playoffs, both teams will be playing in the same time zone each and every night. So we will never have to talk about that again until next year when it inevitably becomes a topic at some point. And
Yeah, so
can
time
crack
zones
jokes about it.
may go against the Jets nights. That's a rough. But yeah, as far as Ehlers goes, I mean, I'm not sure. They obviously need him back. He was skating, wasn't shooting. I don't know if it was a shoulder issue or he just, separated shoulder or a collarbone thing. In my personal experience, I had collarbone separated shoulder once, and it was not fun. Shooting, you could skate, but you couldn't shoot.
Did it happen in hockey? Or you fall off a bike?
It was in hockey, actually. I was back checking really hard and went to dive to block a pass. And I slid headfirst into the boards, and I knew immediately it was done. I tried to tough it out and come back and play the next shift. Yeah, I'm real tough, and it was pretty clear. I couldn't play. Well, I mean, I could skate, but holding the stick and the shooting is a different story. So it's definitely tough. I think you can come back quick from it, but again, I'm not an elite athlete, and this was a long time ago.
Well, as I said, I remember what Maurice said when they announced the injury, and he said, we are confident and hopeful that he is back for the playoffs. And there's a lot of wiggle room there because, and I think I said to you right off the bat, Remo, I sure hope they're more confident than they are hopeful. Because honestly, we have seen just how much Nikolai Ehlers means to this club when he's not in the lineup over the last few weeks. And, to think that this exact same lineup will be able to completely flip the switch without people coming in. I mean, it probably sounds crazy to begin with, but, having a player like Ehlers come back can change things significantly. So I think everyone that follows the Winnipeg Jets and pulls for them hopes that would be the case. He could come in and make a big impact right away. But I'll tell you what, if he's not coming out, well, starting tonight, these guys are going to have to figure it out. And I think, we saw some good things in the second half of the game from the top line, some good chances, more from Kyle Connor. That's great. The Vancouver Canucks are not really equivalent to who they're playing in the playoffs, though. So it needs to get better and a lot better. And hopefully we'll see it begin tonight.
Yeah, hopefully it's better than blah, right? That's what Wheeler said yesterday. And I feel bad. You want players to be more honest about the game, and then they are, and they say we played blah, and you're kind of like ripping Wheeler's
make cracks
comment
about it. He was right. That was exactly blah. The start was very blah.
Yeah.
In fact, the start was worse than blah. Later on was maybe a bit better than blah, which gave out to a blah rating for the entire game as a whole.
And he's like, look, I want to be honest here. So you can't really, rip him for saying that. But it's like, come on, guys. You're 1-9 in your last 10. And I've said that like so many times, but it's crazy. I mean, it's hard to have hope heading into the playoffs when you're going to go up against McDavid, who's torn this team apart. So it seems like, though, Murat said this yesterday, and it seems like they are playing it out, and they really don't care if they win or lose. And they're just going to play, Maurice said he's going to even out the ice time. He's not going to play like a playoff game. Like, you're not going to see, the first line getting extra ice time and stuff. And you saw where he put out the fourth line, like, offensive zone after an icing. So I don't think they care about the result. They want the process. The process was good yesterday. They did get kind of goalied, but they didn't win. And you got to win. And that's how you make money in the league. And just not getting it done here.
You have to win next week. You don't really have to win this week, but I think everyone would feel better about the chances of winning next week if you show that you can still actually win in the regular season against teams that are out of the playoffs and playing 6 games at 9 nights.
It's like you can't beat if you can't beat Ottawa and Vancouver when they're just playing it out the string. How are you going to beat Edmonton?
I know, Remo, you're just, one win in 10 games, it's over. But you know what? They get a big win tonight. We come back and go, hey, this team's 2-2 in their last 4 games. Maybe you win against Toronto and a depleted lineup, and then, you're above, you're 3-2 in your 5 going into the playoffs.
I will say, once the playoffs,
off to the races.
Now the season is going on. We can talk about the thing, but once the playoff starts, I'm like, oh, well, it's fresh slate. I don't remember what happened in the regular season. They're in the dance. That's what matters. Who cares what happened before? We're focusing on the future.
What
That's
do you
what we're
think
going to be
they
saying next week.
What do you think? 100%.
Yeah.
You can't start the playoffs and just sit around whining about the last 3 weeks. I
No.
mean, it really won't matter. You'd like to see it get better. But then the minute, and as I said, if they were able to go out and win game 1 next week, we'd all laugh about how concerned everyone was going into the playoffs. And look, won the first game. Listen, a lot of work to go yet, but tonight, the big story is going to be 1,000 games for Paul Stastny. What a great addition to the Winnipeg Jets he's been. If you missed it already and you're kicking around, if you're with us, especially live on YouTube, hit up the Jets site afterwards and check out the availability with Stastny. It was really long, so we weren't going to play the whole thing today, but, some really interesting stuff from Stastny on, how he got to this point, his time in Winnipeg, losing all his teeth, eating Taco Bell. It was a lot of fun. And I got to tell you, he's a guy, it's really too bad. We've said this all year, not having fans in the building for so many things. But there's a guy that probably deserves a full house on their feet, thanking him for what he's done in the National Hockey League. Hopefully we'll have a chance to do that at some point in the future as Jet fans, but that ain't happening this year. That would be great because that would mean Paul Stastny would be back, and I think most fans would agree that he's been a great, great part of the hockey club. I guess that's going to do about it. Remo, you have anything else you want to throw out to the people before we call it a show and get ready for tomorrow?
Yeah, Jeff Kabilas posted this in chat, and I saw this while you were talking to Joe, that the A's might explore the possibility to relocate if they can't get this stadium proposal done. So
Oakland, that's been a long time coming. I mean, that is the biggest dump in pro sports that they play in right now.
So they've asked City Council to vote on a $12 billion mixed-use development. I don't think that's gonna go through. So
$12 billion?
Yeah, 12. You don't just need a stadium anymore, Huss. You need a stadium, but then you need retail. You need a hotel. You need
couple JW Marriotts.
Yeah, you need everything. You can't just have a stadium anymore. You need like businesses. You need to own all the land so you can make even more money. But then it's not enough for the millionaire owner. He's got to ask the city to pay for it. So we'll see if Oakland wants to pay for it, if they can get some other city to give them some free money for a stadium. Maybe. So now we're going to be speculating on who the next, the Montreal rumors are going on. Maybe they go a little north to Portland or some other city. So we'll see. I mean, Oakland, they already lost the Raiders.
Dave Carpenter, Montreal A's?
Montreal.
Let's do it. Get them back north of the border. Would love to see that. And what Gregory has just mentioned, and we cannot not mention this, the red-hot Moose back in action tonight against the Belleville Senators. Moose have a few more games this season. I know they've got a couple games on OB on the weekend, assuming that there's no Jets playoffs hockey on the weekend. And, Remo, 10-0-1 for the Moose right now.
Cool,
it really has been awesome. And so many players, particularly Cole Perfetti, making a huge impact right now. And while things have been, it's sort of incredible because the Jets have had this horrible slide and had the great start. The Moose had a tougher start and now have really, if you could just kind of swap the fates of both clubs right now, I think Winnipeg Jet fans would be pretty excited. But anyways, you can check out the Moose tonight as they continue their run to the end of the season, hopefully with some more wins.
Yeah, very sad that we won't have a Calder Cup playoffs this year, but maybe it bodes well for next year. We'll wait and see. Although, could Perfetti be on the Jets next year? Or would he be in the OHL if they make him play there? I can't see that happening because of age rules, but isn't that what the rules currently are?
Well, the rules currently were that he would have had to go back this year. And I guess for next year as well. I mean, listen, I think what he's done so far, he's probably played himself into the mix, but, and who knows even what's going to happen with, I guess we just assume that junior hockey will be back operating as normal, but like with everything else, who knows at this point. Bottom line is, if you're able to and you haven't already, get the shot. We got to get this going here.
Yeah, I saw Andrew Harris got his on the Bombers Instagram.
Excellent.
Him and
good example.
Jackson Jeffcoat. They got the sticker. Jeffcoat even had the sticker in Texas.
Oh, good.
So
Sticker,
sticker
selfie.
activate. You could take the selfie and it activates it.
Yeah, and again, as part of our commitment to the community, when we get to the point where we're really trying to work hard to get people out, maybe we'll have our dream of the Winnipeg Sports Talk free beer with Little Brown Jug after you get your vaccination at some point. Our own WST vaccination spot to get going and hopefully get out to games at some point beforehand. All right. Hey, thanks to Not Autocorp, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Nick and Nicky DQ, of course, Little Brown Jug. I think it might be time for a summer lager tonight with the game. Just saying. Assiniboia Downs opening day next Monday. Friends at Breezy Bend Golf and Country Club, breezybend.ca. Coolbet.com. Check out Coolbet at our site. If you do want to play there, we've got a great bonus code for you. You can find that at our Winnipeg Sports Talk Twitter. And of course, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Thinking about a trip inside the province this year. World-class fishing at Aikens Lake. Find out more at aikenslake.com. Remo, I am calling a win tonight. I do that very, very infrequently. I know it won't make a huge difference, but I think Connor Hellebuyck comes in, plays a good game. I think the Jets are better. I think they win tonight. We'll see what that means, if anything, for the Toronto game, but they can lock down the third place tonight. It sounds like you are less confident than I am about this game tonight.
Hey, no, Dom said 60% chance. I definitely think that they can win. They're not losing 2 in a row, so I don't know if I'd go out there and call it. I think last night or yesterday, I was like, I don't know. They seem like a big favorite here, and they shouldn't be. I still don't think it should be that big of a favorite, but I'm going to go with the win. They're not losing back-to-back to Vancouver, and they're not losing on Stastny 1,000 night.
Exactly. We've heard it all day in the chat today. Do it for Stastny and let he be the catalyst to a bit of a turnaround before things get going next week.
We got the predictions in chat, so we can screenshot those when they happen and be like,
excellent,
hey, this guy was right.
Yeah, fire your chats in there right now. And I see Gregory not a fan of needles. Hey, don't worry, dude. No one really is a fan of needles. I mean, unless you're maybe a big acupuncture guy. But yeah, but I will tell you, like so many people, you really don't even know that it happened. Just don't look, and they'll ask you something, and they'll say, "Oh, it's done." Oh, wow. So you will realize that any fear will be no big deal. In and out. Feeling good, 15-minute wait, and then you can be waxed and vaxxed like everyone that's already got it done.
Yeah, I didn't look, and I was like, oh, that was it? That was my reaction was. And then I sat there on my phone. It was good times.
All right, folks. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Spread the word on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. If you haven't already, do us a favor. Hit that like button in the chat. That always helps us big time. And tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk. Tell them to subscribe on YouTube. If you're in with us right now and haven't hit that red button, please do that already. Thanks again to everyone for their support. We're now well over 4,000 subscriptions, and we're looking to get to 5. That'll be a great day on it. And Remo will be back tomorrow. Great show tomorrow. Chris Johnson, Sportsnet Insider, will join us. We'll get his thoughts on the Jets. Maybe he'll have some insider info on what he's hearing about Nikolai Ehlers, Eichel's situation, and a look ahead to the playoffs with one of the best in the business that I'm so excited to have on the program, because obviously since he became full-time at Sportsnet, we were on TSN. It's been a while since we had a chance to talk, but Chris is going to join us tomorrow and much more on both the Jets and the Moose as we head to the postseason.
Yeah, this is going to be fun heading into the playoffs. We'll finally get some playoff games, some overtimes coming up. And yes, all of our social links in the chat. Follow us Facebook, Instagram. Could use a couple more. And if you don't want to tell, your friends, verbally, well, you can always just hit the like button or the share button or the retweet button. You can do that too.
Many different ways to skin a cat here, folks. Well, actually, we don't want to skin any cats. We just want to spread the word about Winnipeg Sports Talk. I'm not sure whether that saying came from or why it's even in my vernacular, but it apparently is. Although I can say I have never skinned anything, including a cat. All right, for Michael Remis, I am Andrew Paterson. Thanks to everyone. Hit that like button, by the way, when you're on your way out. And to those listening on the podcast feed, thanks so much for making us a part of your day. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. Chris Johnson, TSN's Darren Drager joining us on Thursday as well. We're really ramping up for the playoffs here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and we'll look forward to joining you tomorrow, 1 o'clock live on YouTube, later in the afternoon on podcast here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Have a great night and enjoy the game this evening.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.